Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Howell Township Council Workshop meeting, April 5th. I'd like to call the meeting in order. Ms. Wong, would you please read the opening statement?
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this workshop regular meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner. By the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on January 1, 2011. By the faxing of a copy of said notice to the Asbury Park Press, Tri-Town News and Star Ledger for publication on January 1, 2011. By the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on January 1, 2011. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting and between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of Public Law 1975, Chapter 127. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code, be advised that this facility is designed with 3 emergency exits for your safety. The locations are as follows. Upon exiting the meeting room to the rear, there to immediate left and immediate right, and at the front of the meeting room at the left of the dais. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Television.
Have a roll call, please, ma'am.
Mrs. Clark?
I think she's going to be late, actually.
Okay.
Mr. Nicastro?
Here.
Mrs. Smith?
Present.
Mr. Gatto?
Present as well.
Mayor Walsh?
Here. Ms. Schlegel, I believe you have reason to go into executive session?
Yes, Mayor. Anticipated litigation and contract negotiations, global building.
Okay, can I have a motion to go into, Ms. Wellman, will you please read the executive session resolution?
Whereas the governing body of the Township of Howell is authorized pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12 to exclude the public from that portion of the meeting for purposes of discussing specific matters as permitted by NJSA 10:4-12. Whereas the governing body of the Township of Howell intends to discuss certain matters which are deemed confidential pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12 in executive session. Whereas at this time, the governing body of the Township of Howell cannot determine the time when the discussion to be held in executive session will be made public, but will disclose the minutes of the executive session when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the Township of Howell that this meeting shall be adjourned to an executive session, and the public will be excluded in order that the governing body of the Township of Howell may discuss the items previously listed, and upon reconvening this public meeting, the presiding officer will announce, if possible, the time when and the circumstances under which a discussion conducted in executive session will be disclosed to the public.
Motion to go into executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please, Ms. Wellman?
Mr. Nicastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes, for the benefit of the public, we will reconvene approximately 7:30. I'd like to reconvene the meeting. You all please stand for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You all please remain standing for one moment in silent observation for our troops that are fighting all over the world, that they come home healthy and happy to the loved ones and to the land that we all love. Me personally, I will be praying for their safe return. Executive session minutes from tonight's meeting can be disclosed to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Acceptance of minutes of previous meetings. I'm going to need a separate vote for executive session on March 15th of 2011. I believe we need a special separate vote too for March 10th.
Yes.
Excuse me? We're going to have to take them individually. For March 1st, 2011. Do I have a motion to accept? Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a roll call, please, Ms. Wallman?
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Nicastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
No, I feel that these particular minutes are not complete enough to accurately report the extent of that meeting, so I'm just voting no.
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes, any clarity though I'd like to ask Councilwoman Smith about what's not clear enough?
They're not extensive enough. There's not enough to accurately depict what happened that night. It just basically says there was, Mr. Neville presented to the governing body the feasibility study and discussion on it, and it doesn't nearly go into 4.5 hours of discussions and questions and answers. And
They won't, Mayor. The minutes do not go into extensive,
Talk into the mic, please.
no.
I got it.
Mrs. Smith has to use her mic. Again.
Thank you.
sorry.
Mrs. Smith, you'd like to repeat yourself. So it goes into the mic, would you please?
Okay. I voted no to the acceptance of the minutes because I don't feel that they're extensive enough of an explanation.
Okay, but there are tapes of that meeting, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, and that's fine.
Okay. March 10th, we had a special budget meeting. We need a separate vote. Councilwoman Clark was not here that night. Could somebody make a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Cover roll call, please, Ms. Walman.
Mrs. Clark?
Abstain.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes,
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. Regular meeting of March 15th, 2011. I reviewed the beginning of the tape that I missed. Somebody make a motion about the regular meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
second.
Have a roll call, please, Ms. Walman.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes,
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes, and with the executive session of March 15th, I was not here, so I will be abstaining. Would somebody make a motion?
So moved, Mayor. Executive session minutes for March 15th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a roll call, please, Ms. Walman.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
yes,
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
I would need to abstain.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go to reports from township officials. We'll start with you, Ms. Nunziata. Anything to report? How my roads coming?
Bid opening Phase 1, Thursday, 11:30 a.m.
Thursday, 11:30 a.m. I will call you from the road, sir. Ms. Slagle, do you mind if I call Ms. Nunziata about 1 o'clock on Thursday?
No, sir, you can certainly call him.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Anything else, sir? Mr.
No, sir.
Filiaccio, you'll be speaking a lot later?
We'll be speaking a lot later, yes. Nothing to report right now.
Okay. Ms. Goodman?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Ms. Slagle, you have a lot for me?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Jeff, you've been holding down fort that way?
Stephen.
Okay. Stephen, I'm sorry. Ever since he asked for my money outside, I've been a little bit flustered. Jeffy, what do you have for me? Stephen, what do you have for me?
Just want to let the residents be aware that.
I don't think that's on.
No, you're good.
Let the residents be aware that there's important changes to the township curbside recycling collection. Mixed paper is now banned from trash and must be recycled. Lids may be placed on the container. Recyclables should be commingled in the same container, which include aluminum and tin cans, plastic, number 1, number 2, pourable bottles, glass jars and bottles, flattened corrugated cardboard, newspapers, and mixed paper. Excessive cardboard and newspaper may be tied with string and placed next to the can. And just to remind the residents that recyclables can be placed at the curb the night before. Just please make them visible to the driver. And curbside recycling is picked up every other week. And if you're curious as to when your development is picked up, you can go to our website and see the calendar days that your development is being picked up in.
Thank
And what is that website?
www.twp.howell.nj.us. It'll be on the front page.
Stephen, Not everybody in Howell lives in a development. Remember that, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman, we spoke about you saying mayor, may I? Didn't we?
You can speak till the cows come home.
Ms. Woolman?
Nothing, Mayor.
Councilman Castro?
Nothing.
Councilman?
No, sir, not tonight. Thank you.
Councilwoman Smith?
Yes, just two things really quickly. The Lake Restoration Wildlife Committee has requested that well, I guess I should explain. There's a dock for handicapped people to fish from, and there's no signage. So if there's not a sign there that says handicapped people, they don't have preference. If somebody's there already, how can they they're people, everybody's using it, in other words.
I'll reach out to the Lake Restoration Wildlife
Good.
Committee for some verbiage for that, what the proper language is for the sign.
Great. And they would, I understand you and Davide have been given a sample ordinance. They would like to have an ordinance that protects the flora and fauna at Echo Lake.
I don't recall seeing that, but I will ask Mr. Fuoco about that, and we'll get that, we'll put that on for discussion.
That's what I'm requesting.
Okay.
I was going to mention the Birdsall report, but I think Mr. Gatto is going to do that, right? Make that request?
Yes.
Okay. Then that's it.
Deputy Mayor, nothing?
The only thing I have, as Councilwoman Smith alluded to, is since the last meeting, the council and mayor has received copies of the engineering study that was completed by Birdsall Engineering for a prospective building in town as one of the options related in the Neville report. Can we get that posted as a public document available for all residents on the township website, readily accessible as soon as possible?
We'll put it on in the morning.
Okay, and I know there's other documents that are there. I think we've provided every copy of every study that we've ever commissioned as part of this entire project. If that's not true, if there's anything that's missing, can you just check to make sure it's all out there and make sure that we get it in a very public place of the website so people don't have to go fishing for it?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, I'm looking at it right now, and it looks like they may have been pushed into the archives because of the other information that's on there. What we'll do is we'll get all that stuff together and put it in one place right on the front.
Okay.
Very good.
And then along those lines, in the near future, are we planning a public presentation relative to that report?
Well, my recommendation would be is that we could schedule it. It's up at the direction of the council. We can certainly put something on for the May 10th meeting.
Do we have much scheduled for that, since we
Not-
won't have another meeting till then? And it is Student Government Day?
I don't believe we have.
Yeah, the mock meeting occurs at
Right.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, no,
Right.
there's really not, it's not a heavy agenda at this point.
Okay.
All right, I would like to see the authors of that report available so that we can have a conversation with him like we did with Mr. Neville, and then, of course, open that up for public. That would give the public close to a month in order to review the documents and be able to come prepared to ask that firm questions if they so chose to.
That's fine. We will schedule that on May 10th if that's the direction of the council.
Thank you. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
I personally will not be here May 10th. Sorry. But my eldest daughter will be graduating college, and I will be down celebrating with her. I'm very sorry to miss the kids. I've enjoyed Government Day. I've been here 6 years for Government Day. It's really it's a very nice time. Had a couple good mayors along the way that I really appreciate it. I ran into one of them in Big City Bagel a few weeks ago, and I asked were they ready to take my spot. They said as soon as they turn 18.
Good answer.
There is something that I would like to bring up as far as we've had numerous emails about field usage from different organizations and different individual residents. We've reached back out to some to let them know that there's a process in place where they need to contact our head of recreation, Davide Fuoco, and fill out the appropriate forms to see about using fields, to see about the availability. With it must be a schedule, and it all goes through there. This governing body doesn't get involved with who uses fields when. The process is to go through recreation. We really do not know. So if you're not satisfied with going to the head of recreation, please contact the manager, Ms. Schlegel. We really don't have an idea of who's using the fields. I signed some leases that are for different organizations where we lease fields to different organizations, and they hand in schedules. And they're on township property, and they're for all the citizens to use in Howell Township, as long as they're not being used by whose that fields are leased to at that time. So please, personal phone calls to my house, personal emails to me. I do not make those decisions. So, and how do we get Davide? We go to what's that website again, if you need to get a hold of him?
www.twp.howell.nj.us.
I've been on that many times, I think. Thank you very much, Stephen. Getting my wits back about me. I have two proclamations I need to read.
Excuse me, I think you forgot, unless I was daydreaming, Mrs. Clark and Mr. Nicastro when it came to reports.
You were I think you were sleeping then, Councilwoman. They both said they had nothing to see.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Must have gone really quickly then. Just don't want to forget anybody.
Bless you.
Hold on. Just in case it's me that made the mistake. Councilman Castro?
I have nothing, thank you, man.
Councilwoman Clark?
No, thank you for asking, though. Appreciate it.
From the Office of Mayor, it's a proclamation. This is Autism Awareness Month. Something very dear to my heart. Whereas autism is a pervasive developmental disorder affecting the social, learning, and behavioral skills of those affected by it. And whereas autism was once thought to be a relatively rare disorder affecting only 1 in 10,000 people. And whereas more and more health professionals become proficient in diagnosing autism, more children are being diagnosed on the autism spectrum, resulting in the rate as low as 1 in 500 children. And we could tell that's last year because now it's down to about 1 in 155.
Right.
And whereas while there is no cure for autism, it's well documented if an individual with autism receives treatment early in their lives, it's often possible for that individual to make significant improvement. Whereas New Jersey Center for Outreach and Services for the Autism Community, COSAC, is spearheading an awareness effort in order to educate parents, professionals, and the general public about autism and its effects. I, Robert F. Walsh, Mayor of the Township of Howell, do hereby proclaim April 2011 as Autism Awareness Month in the Township of Howell, and urge all employees and residents to participate in our municipality's Autism Awareness Month activities in order to become better educated on the subject of the autism spectrum disorders. There are many activities all over the state of New Jersey this month. We do your hearts well that you got involved in one of them. A lot of great people involved in different organizations. And this is a proclamation about Arbor Day. Whereas in 1949, the legislature set aside the last Friday of April as Arbor Day to promote the planting of trees and to encourage the protection of our forests from fires and pests that destroy the beauty and usefulness of our woodlands. And whereas half of New Jersey's total land area is forested or tree covered. And whereas trees play an important role in the ecosystem in which we live, and trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil caused by wind and water, clean the air we breathe and the water we drink, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for birds and wildlife, and reduce heating and cooling caused by moderating temperature. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper for fine literature, wood for homes, fuel for fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees provide increased property value, enhanced economic viability, and pleasing aesthetic qualities along streets and properties of municipalities. And whereas tree planting in yards and farms, in schoolyards and parks, and along streets and highways creates an enduring heritage for generations that follows. Now therefore be resolved that I, Robert F. Walsh, Mayor of Howell Township, do hereby proclaim April 29, 2011 as Arbor Day in the community of Howell Township, and urge all residents to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, support our township urban forestry program. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. April 29th, I hope everybody's out there planting a tree. I know I will be.
I see,
Mayor, may I?
I see Mrs. McKee in the public. She's chairman of our Shade Tree Commission. I'm sure she'd like to have some volunteers to help distribute the plants to the third graders and plant the trees. If anybody out there has time, would like to help, or up here, we need to plant all the trees we can.
April 29th? What day of the week is that? Anybody know?
Friday.
Could you ask Mr. Party to put in my calendar? I'll be glad to help you on the 29th.
Yeah, we usually get asked to go to some of the schools, right?
Right.
Yeah. I haven't received anything yet from any of the schools, but
I'm sure that's why Kathy's here.
I'll be glad to help you.
You usually split it up, right?
Go to some different schools. You know, it depends. Depends who asked us to come. Nobody asked, I'll be a little upset.
I think Mrs. McKee is waiting to be asked.
You're definitely invited.
Mr. McKee, why don't you come on up and chat with us for a moment?
Okay, well, we've been celebrating Arbor
Please
Day.
introduce yourself.
Oh, Kathy McKee. I'm with the
Come on.
Howell Township Shade Tree Commission. I've been on the Shade Tree Commission since 1991, long time. And we've been celebrating Arbor Day in this township from way before that. Maybe you would even remember.
I don't know when it started.
When Burge was around. Yeah, so we have special programs at all the elementary schools for the third grade classes. And we distribute seedlings to each of the third graders. The Girl Scouts help us wrap them at the Girl Scout camp. And we're always looking for speakers to help out at the schools, just give a little talk on behalf of the trees at the little ceremony that they have. And we plant a tree at each of the schools, including the middle schools as well. So just let me know, if you're interested. I'll be sending an email to the council anyway. But
Mr. Mayor, can I be heard just briefly? With your permission?
Mayor, may I?
I just want to thank you. That sounds like a wonderful program, and
Oh.
certainly to see, I will try to be there. It's always difficult during the workday, but I just want to thank you because
okay, thank you.
good to see the kids get out and plant some trees.
Okay, well, I'll let you guys know the times and the vacancies that we
Yeah,
have.
please do
Thank
that.
you.
Send us an email, and I'll
Okay.
make myself available.
Okay, great.
I won't golf that morning. Golf that.
Mayor, can we find out, will something be put on the website? Can we put something?
Certainly.
Okay. Let's start. We have a presentation from the Howell Township Zoning Board. Why don't we start there?
Evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Chairman. You have a couple of your members? Come on up.
If, well, they're the ones that do all
All right,
the
into the
work.
mic, into the mic. You know the drill.
Yeah.
If we can get another chair.
John Van Noy, Howell Township Zoning Board Chairman. This is my good friend over many years, serving this fine city of ours, Wendell Nansen, and on the right is Tom O'Donnell. also a board member for a number of years, and have diligently served the public interest.
Mr.
Barbara
Van
can't
Noy,
hear, John. Speak into the mic.
Can't hear me? Really? This is very unusual for me. I'm never accused of that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that one's
Okay.
really
Normally,
sensitive.
we're not sitting
We're
over
not
here.
saying, and we're saying the
Speak
same
into the
thing
mic,
to you.
Mr. Nancy.
Normally, we are not sitting here, so we're usually the ones to telling the people to speak into the mic, so.
Right. So what I'd like to do is ask Wendell and Tom to actually go through.
You need to bring the mic to you. As you keep on turning your head, you turn away from that mic, and Barbara's shooting me stares that if they were harpoons, I would have already been bludgeoned.
Okay. Yes, sir. Let me see where I'm at now. The first thing we'd like to do is thank the council for taking the time to let us review what the entire council board had voted on to represent to you what we feel should be considerations for you in the coming year about changes that perhaps could be made. So with that, I'll ask Wendell and Tom to go through the details of that report. But first, I'd just like to say, if for no other reason than for the whole board to boast a little bit, in all of the cases that we've had this year, we have been upheld in Superior Court, we have been upheld at the Law Division, we've been upheld at the Appellate Court, and we are happy to report that a case that lasted over 7 years that went to the New Jersey Supreme Court, the Supreme Court dismissed the objector with prejudice. In other words, they had to pay all court costs and everything else. So we're very happy with that. We're very happy with our attorney who did an excellent job representing us. And I just wanted to mention that to you because, and as a matter of fact, a number of courts have complimented the board on actions and positions they've taken. So with that, I'll ask Mr. Nansen and Mr. O'Donnell to carry on.
I'm going to make it very brief, real
Briefer
quick.
than you think, Mr. Nancy.
Yes, sir. I will. Number one, we've had several applications come in, and we keep getting them based on pools. You know, people that go in, they put in their pool, and then they have an outside contractor after the pool's constructed come in and put in a sidewalk. Well, those sidewalks actually go into the setbacks, and we're having a lot of cases coming in after the fact. You know, contractors didn't get a permit. You know, whatever it boils down to, they're in the setbacks, so they need a variance to leave it, you know, as a non-conforming use. So, you know, something needs to be done either on the inspection level to where, you know, we're better inspecting, have a jacket, you know, even the pool company jacket that, you know, they have a plan drawn out in the homeowner. It has to be approved by the building department before they could even start the construction. That way we know, and the homeowner knows, because a lot of this homeowner doesn't know, but the contractors are supposed to know this. But, you know, they wind up, and then it leaves the expense of the homeowner to deal with it. The other thing is the fences. Whenever you have two adjoining properties, you know, back to back, and both of them have a swimming pool, our fence ordinances, we're winding up with two fences in their backyard, back to back. Either an agreement or something needs to be arranged to where we don't have that, because that little piece of property in between, weeds and everything else grow up in there, rodents can run down it, you know, and it creates a problem. And so something, if that could be revisited and see what we could do to eliminate a double fence, you know, back to back. The other one is having two front yards two front yards. We have a lot of existing fences. We've already had 2 cases this year based on this. We have a lot of existing fences that the homeowner wants to replace it. Way back in the 80s and 90s, they had a permit to put the fence there. They put the fence. Now they're having an issue when they go to land use to get a permit to replace that fence. They're having to come to the zoning board now because it's in the setback from 2 front yards. I don't know how that could be addressed, but I feel that something could be done to kind of eliminate the cost of coming to the zoning board from the resident.
Do you have a recommendation, Mr. Nansen, or does the board have a recommendation that we can look at?
Yes, we do. And
Okay.
Number one, the fence is already an existing fence. It's already there. So, basically all the person wants to do is replace that existing fence.
If it's on the footprint of the,
No, I think this is what's
Exactly.
happening. You have a fence that's whether it's an easement or conservation easement or something like that.
Well, actually, it's 2 front yards. You got 2 roadways.
Right.
It's on a corner lot.
Okay.
When it's a front yard setback, it's got to be 4 foot, 50% open. And people are saying, I have 2 fronts, I want to use one as a back or a side, and they want it to be the 6 foot full, and they can't do that.
Well, why don't we do this, as far as things you'd like to see changed like that? Why don't you put something in writing if you could, gentlemen?
Yes.
And we'll have a little powwow with Ms. Kingman, you taking some notes over there?
We could put it on for discussion at
Yeah.
But after they review it
Right.
and give us, well, this we can do legally, this we
Yeah.
can't do legally. We do take your suggestions when you come before us to heart. and we look at
I
them.
know, you did
And we
last
made some
year.
adjustments over the last few years.
Absolutely.
I
At your
know.
suggestions, we had them looked into, and Ms. Kingdom has made those adjustments, so. I don't
And-
need the saga, Mr. Nancy.
No, that's it. That's all I have on
Our
the fences.
recommendation for the double fences is frequently it can be done by owner mutual consent, and even as a part of the deed. 40 years ago, 34 years ago, when I moved here, that's the way we did it. And I still have my fence, and my neighbor is happy, and we fix it whenever we need to, but it creates peace in the neighborhood.
Well, if something happens to that fence, if it blows down in the storm, you're gonna have to go before the zoning board if you don't change it.
Well, not unless we can get Mr. Nansen's recommendation implemented, then we'll be okay.
Mr. Nancy, should I let him off the hook or not?
Yeah. Well, we're trying to do this for the residents.
I know you are.
That's great, actually.
I think it's an excellent
I know
idea.
you
It's
are.
excellent.
And
I've
then-
had numerous conversations with you.
And then we have the other issue when we were talking about, for example, a pool and where the edge of the concrete might be 3 to 5 inches closer to the fence. Our engineering has suggested, and this is what we have in our report, that they be permitted to put some kind of drainage around that edge and therefore have relief from the exactness of the 10-foot setback, just so that they can prove that they're not causing a drainage issue on their neighbors. And in all the cases we've seen, that would solve it.
And we've spoken about this in the past, like when some people put pavers down and then change them to cement, and I realize that it's
Yeah.
permanent. And I thought we had mentioned about putting something in the application package that would explain stuff like that.
Well, see, what we do is whenever we do have a resolution, it's spelled out in the resolution that if they're going with pavers, it has to remain pavers. If 20 years down the road or they sell the property, it's in that resolution that it's never to be changed to concrete.
They don't tell the buyer, Mr. Nancy, that's what
I understand, but when the buyer goes to do something, it's there. And we've tried to incorporate that in the resolutions to keep that from happening.
Or maybe put something in the application package also, so, okay.
Look, if I could just give you 2 little quick blurbs on that. Back September 2001, we actually changed the ordinance. It used to be 10 feet from the edge of the pool, and then the sidewalk or the patio is after that. And people were doing 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot, 8 foot, and there was no restriction on that. And we found out it was causing a drainage problem, so we changed it to 10 feet from the edge of the patio. And unbeknownst, I've done over 1,000 pools. And I can tell you that they'll say, you got an extra half a yard of concrete on a truck, I'll just form it out a little bit larger, there's a half a pallet of block left, we'll just finish it off. And in some cases, and believe me, Board Engineer Mallon and I speak monthly on these. We had discussed possibly maybe, a 10% rule or something, 20%, but you don't want to give them, because if you say we'll give you 2 feet, then all of a sudden it'll be 8 feet, now it'll be 7.5 and 7.3. So that we can probably do something with. As far as the fences are concerned, the problem with the fences is a fence is a fence until you put the pool in. Now it becomes a pool barrier. It's a different set of codes that the building department looks at. And if the fence is climbable from the wrong side, That's why there's two, because they don't want someone to actually be able to climb that fence and get into the pool. So that may be a little bit tougher.
Well, work it out. Recommendations in writing. Mr. Luziano, Ms. King, let's take a look at it, and let's give the governing body talk about it and give you back an answer.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Speak, sir.
Thank you. I just have one thing, a recommendation. The board continues to receive applications for cell towers. And when these applications come in front of us, if they're going to have more than one antenna, which is what we call a co-locator, they shouldn't have to come back to the zoning board to put a second or third or fourth antenna on the tower. We'd like to see it to be an administrative thing, rather than coming back to the zoning board and tying the zoning board up again, because it's already been approved. However, if they should want to change the compound, change the height, or change the surrounding area, then they have to come back to the zoning board. But if it's just to put an antenna up, then we really don't feel that they have to.
Ms. King?
No, I agree, and actually I was talking to Bill about this. I think we had a brief discussion about this before, and I don't remember why it didn't move forward, but there was a reason. I just don't remember who brought it up, but we could revisit it again for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
We have to try to make changes to benefit the residents of Howell Township.
Right.
But also, we can't mitigate the safety. Safety has to be first.
Okay. And then the last is
My last one, there's more, but I know you know, Mayor and Council has.
You got another minute.
Well, there is more than other than this one, but this is very important, and I've been pushing for this, I guess, for the last 8 years. It's called a fair share ordinance. And I don't think it just should pertain to applicants that come to the zoning board. I think it should be included, there should be an ordinance for developers that come before the planning board. Also, because if they've got all of their ducks in a row and they meet approvals of everything that they're putting in their development, the planning board can't request a road widening. They can't off-site repairs, that this development is going to create. The planning board does not have the authority to put that in a resolution. You've got to put a traffic light here. You've got to do this. If the project meets the property, there's really no negotiation allowed. Other townships have what they call a fair share ordinance. It's here. The developers need to pick up the cost of widening a road, putting a turn lane in, do off-site drainage, that their development is going to cost, not at the cost of the taxpayers to come in and redo a road because they added 500 more cars to that road.
Ms. King?
We have that, don't we?
No.
No.
It's-
Zoning.
It's different.
Zoning has more flexibility in this area. And the situation hits the homeowner mostly. When the homeowner comes and has seen a paper road, just there it is, and wants to build a home and satisfies all the other zoning requirements and comes in front of us, we require him to put access to that home, up to his entire home. A year later, someone else comes along and says, this is great. I'm going to move in right across the street. I can get all my permits. I can build. Everything's wonderful. The first homeowner paid the full freight of that road. We would like to see a fair share ordinance which would require the new buyer in the second home or subsequent homes to pay a share back to the original owner so that it's shared equally as that road develops.
This is the off-track contribution, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, do you have examples? Or
Yeah, I
just
actually
an
have
answer?
a whole file on it.
Well, why don't we have
We're
one
working on
going
it.
to talk about this?
Because the municipal land use law provides for certain contributions, but it never clarified that you could attribute it to after parties, like somebody then moving in, after the road's been built, now you're going to say,
Well,
pay
see,
it
we,
to-
we had a case, it was the Hughes case.
No
And,
particular cases.
sorry?
Right,
No
no.
particular-
Don't mention
Okay.
names, please.
Okay.
Is it
No
resolved?
particular
Well,
cases.
we had a case that was reprimanded back to the zoning board, and we legally had to get involved with negotiating between the homeowner and a new proposed homeowner. And we actually became the judge in between that, and we refused to do that because we didn't feel that was part of the zoning board's authority to do that. You know, it wasn't, but it was reprimanded back to us from Court and Freehold that we negotiate that out. It went nowhere, and the proposed builder or the proposed homeowner dropped it and left town. You know, they just couldn't afford to go any further with it.
I'll meet with Jack
Let's look
and,
into this.
and I know Ron
Give
Kuchera and
us
I
in
had
writing.
also talked about it.
Okay.
You know, send something over in writing and let's try to address whatever your concerns are if we can.
Right.
This governing body will discuss them.
Mayor, if I can, yes. We received the report back in January. This is what they're addressing now.
Yeah.
So I'm just hoping that we've all seen this, that we can move fast on this. I mean, most of their recommendations, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be.
Yeah, no, we've taken life suggestions before and
Right.
implemented them.
We're just trying to, we thank you very much for hearing us. Hey, I'm not going to go any further with that. You have our report, but those were the main key cases that we felt. Number one is a fair share because, you know, it's costing us as far as taxpayers, and I'm not speaking as part of the zoning board here. It's costing us as taxpayers to come in and repair roadways. And, you know, that should be up to the developer. There should be a pot. You know, if they're going to build on, you know, Cranberry Road, they need to pick up the, you know, to expand that roadway. If they're pushing X amount of cars, you know,
We agree with you.
we don't have that authority.
I agree
Well,
with you.
certain bodies don't have that authority. So.
Let's, McKenna, you have direction? Everybody
Yes.
from the council?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And you know what? Let's get back to the zoning board. Let's send them back a report within 45 days. Is that enough time?
Yes.
Okay, within 45 days, let's send a report back to you on where we went with some of your suggestions, and from looking at your report, and let's have a little dialogue back together.
Thank you,
One thing
sir.
I'd like to, you know, you just don't think you have the authority? Well, Mr. Tantillo on the planning board, he'll be the judge at any time. Right,
I
Vin?
always know who to look for if I
Yeah.
need help.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you very much.
for your
Thank
service
you,
to the
gentlemen.
town. You
Thank
gentlemen
you.
do a great job. You're okay too, Tom. Okay. Go right now to public hearing on the sewer extension. Mr. Gillen, please come up and introduce yourself.
Sit up here.
Timothy Gillen with CME Associates.
Let's talk. We're here to do a public hearing on the sewer assessments. Anything you'd like to tell us?
If
for
I
our
may.
fellow citizens?
A quick synopsis. Originally, there was an ordinance introduced in July of '03 appropriating $4,200,000 for the project. There were subsequent modifications, again in November of '03, March of '04. An engineering design report was prepared in August '04, revised in October '04, and an ordinance was introduced in April 5th, appropriating an additional $1 million, bringing the total project cost to $5,200,000. The CFO certified funds as of January 9, 2009, as $5,634,678.84, which included interest on the principals of the bonds. We prepared a report in September of '09. There was a public hearing on January 19, 2010. The report was subsequently revised as a result of input from some of the residents who felt that they did not have the opportunity or that their property was otherwise adversely impacted, and that was not taken into consideration. So that report was revised in October 10th of 2010. There was a second public hearing December 14th, 2010, and again, there were multiple residents who indicated that they thought their lands were also adversely impacted by wetlands and other constraints. And as a result of that, the council tabled the action on the ordinance, and there were meetings held with the general public on January 5th, 6th, and 7th in 2011, and that went from roughly 9 o'clock in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. And as a result of that, we met with over 12 individuals affecting 17 properties, and then we revised the report March 2011. The net effect is on several of the properties, the property was decreased in size as a result of wetland areas and other constraints, and that in turn resulted in decreased flows. However, it's a percentage of the flow for the benefit derived. There's a proportional share of the expenditures by the municipality. So each component or each property has a flow. That flow is divided by the total flow to give a percent, and that percent is multiplied against the total amount of $5,600,000 to determine a share. And as a result of that, we finalized the report, and actually subsequent to that, even as late as this afternoon, we received another individual who asked for consideration relative to their property being adversely impacted by wetlands, of which they just furnished us information as of today.
Okay, now, we've had meetings before, and I believe you've met with numerous.
We met with multiple individuals who have provided wetlands maps, other maps of properties as already developed, proposed plans. We honored some of the plans that they prepared. We didn't honor all of them because there were other lands that were available for development or potential development, or were included in the overall total as land area that could potentially be subdivided, added to somebody else, and have a different complex that was developed. As a result of that, we finalized our report. But we did meet with, on each of these, after the two hearings, the initial two hearings, we did meet with individuals on multiple occasions and did review information that they had provided to us.
So basically, you're saying adjustments were made where you saw fit, where they belonged?
Yes.
And everything is completed now in your estimation?
Everything is completed in our estimation, although I'm sure that the general public will have something to say.
It's okay. Do you believe that the process that was performed by the professionals and by this governing body and the managers the way it should be done, that we've done everything we could?
In our opinion, yes.
Okay. Mr. Filiacci, you've been involved in this since the beginning. Have we done all we could from a financial end?
Yes, sir. I do believe we have.
Okay. Anybody from the governing body have anything they'd like to ask of Mr. Gillen? Mr. Filiacci? I'm sure your services will be needed. Why don't you stick around a little while?
I'm at your service.
We know. I'm not. Okay. Hold on one moment, please. Sit down. 1 second, please. Okay, shall I bring everybody up individually now?
For the public, for the hearing on the sewer extension assessments only. So
Okay.
one at a time, you can call them up, Mayor.
One at a time. We will, and just about the sewer assessments at this moment. Nothing else, please. Hello, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Andy DeCesar. This is about Block 14, Lot 31.01
Okay.
on Route 9 North. We received a revised assessment over the December 14th assessment.
A revised assessment over the December 14th assessment.
It was increased from that assessment, which I
Okay,
thought was
why-
going to be the final one. And we are currently in litigation, so first I would like to ask that no assessment on our property be finalized until litigation is resolved.
Okay, that's what you request.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And number two, I spoke with Mr. Gillen and asked if he could send the township, CME specifically, calculations to my attorney or to me so I could present them to my attorney so we could review them. And Mr. Gillen did mention the fact that he erroneously used, again, for whatever reason, the wrong number of seats for the restaurant on the property.
How many seats are there, sir?
I'm sorry?
How many seats are there?
I believe there are 140 that's in the report here.
Okay.
140, 145.
I think we saw a document that you sent saying there was 180. Is that
That was an erroneous document. That was, I think, 2 years ago.
sent by you?
I believe that,
To them,
yes. And then
saying
after
there were
that,
180.
I used my engineers to go in there and count the seats himself, and he sent a report a year after that erroneous document, which was immediately corrected the next day.
Okay.
The email. So I don't understand why so much emphasis is being
I just
put on
asked.
on an erroneous document that was immediately corrected the next day and verified by another engineer.
I
There's
just
no
asked.
excuse for that.
Excuse me, sir.
I just asked, that's all.
Okay.
Mr. Gillen, have you done any research? Do you
Yes.
have anything for me?
Pardon?
Okay. Anything else, sir?
That's also just that request.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Sir, come on up. Good evening, sir. Name and address, please, for the record.
Hi, good evening. Abraham Honig from home address or business?
Whatever you want to give me.
6201 Route 9 North, Decorative Touch. Okay. Hi. I purchased the building of Decorative Touch at 6201 Route 9 North, Block 25, Lot 2401, May of last year, May 11th. And at the time, I knew about the assessment, and I came in many times to the sewer office and also to the township office over here asking to please see what the assessment is going to be and what the measurements of my property are to confirm if they're correct or not. And I was always told that every time you will be receiving a letter in the mail when the assessment will be taking place, that you should be able to put in your input. I only received this last final letter now, the first time, and I own the property already on file for almost a year. So I did miss the previous hearings of what you had, and this is the first time I have a chance to voice my opinion, my thoughts.
Have
So
you ever met, sir, did you ever meet with the engineer?
No, I just called Tim, right after I went, I spoke to the CFO.
You have to speak into the...
Oh, I spoke to Jeffrey a few days ago, right when I got this letter.
All right,
And I came
no
in,
problem, I'll just
I
ask.
asked McKenna a few times also. She told me I'll be receiving something in the mail, and this is the first one I got.
Okay.
Anyways, so basically I asked him to give me the exact measurement of what the township has me at the assessment, and it's 17,684. And I had the building measured by my appraisal, and we did it twice just to confirm that the measurements were correct at 14,206. So I just want to put that into the...
Okay.
That I'm most probably being overcharged by that amount. That's my whole thing. I just want the township to take that into consideration, since I didn't have a chance yet to put, to
Can I ask Mr.
advise
Gillen,
this.
When it comes to the size of a building, okay, do we go off of measurements given to us by the building owner? Were they done by our engineering company? Or were they done from an appraisal? How were they configured?
The majority are done either by scale from drawings that we have or have been submitted to us. We normally do not physically go out and measure every building.
Okay.
In my case, when I was purchasing the building, we checked all the township archives, and there's no physical measurements that the township has, any document whatsoever, since the building is basically like from 1940 and 1950s is the building dates.
Okay.
So, therefore, I had, when the appraisal was done, I brought my original appraisal here, and I had the guy come twice and measure it, because I even thought it was a little smaller than what he measured, because I measured physically everything by hand, myself, right before I purchased it. I was in the 13,000 zone, and the appraisal came back twice, and he kept to his guns. He said it's 1402. I mean 14,206.
Okay.
So that's document, I have it, that's
Thank you very much.
enough, I'm done. Fine, okay, thank you.
God bless you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Anybody else? Come on.
Mayor, my name is Josh Elkis. I'm a partner in Block 25, Lot 67. When we first received the referendum, going way back, our cost on that was supposed to have been approximately $100,000. It has since escalated to, I believe, over $300,000. It was in the low threes, and now it's gone into the 320s. And we are at somewhat of a loss as to, we understand things went up and there was an increase in the cost of the project. There was also an expansion of the scope of the project, which we were not aware of until very recently. But we would like to ask council to defer final action on this so that we, as one of the interested property owners, can get a better understanding of how the calculations are done and how our pro rata share has escalated so extremely when in fact the overall cost of the project, while it did escalate, is not nearly as extreme in its increase.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Want to do what?
Can we defer? We were asking you to defer action, final action on this, so that we can get with either Ms. Schlegel or with Mr. Gillen and get a better understanding of how we came to have this astronomical increase when the scope of our project never changed. We didn't add property or anything to it.
I believe Mr. Gillen has numerous times explained to people how where the calculations came from, how they were done. We've had numerous public meetings. We've had Mr. Gillen and some of his other employees there have met with numerous applicants who've had many questions.
I believe your attorney is Mr. Mayer.
Mr. Mayor was our attorney on it, but yes, he did represent us.
Okay.
We had discussions with Mr. Mayer.
Okay. You know, my personal point of view is that we've had a lot of public hearings, and we've given every landowner plenty of time to meet with the professionals, to go through this. The numbers have been adjusted time and time again. We're going to have a vote tonight. Okay? We're going to have a vote as soon as everybody's done talking.
Is this a finalization of the ordinance, Mayor? Of the bonding ordinance?
Ms. King?
Yes.
Will that lock in?
This is just the confirmation of the assessment.
Okay, confirmation. Well, and for our purposes, that locks us in, is what you're saying.
Essentially, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I do reiterate my request that you defer action on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've heard you.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council, professionals.
Into the
My name is
microphone.
Lawrence Mandel. I'm an attorney and I represent several clients, Krupnik Family Trust and Mark
I know you got
Property.
to speak into the mic. Jerry has a hard time hearing back there.
Okay, let me try it again.
It happens every meeting.
Okay. Lawrence Mandel, represent Krupnik Family Trust and Mark Properties LLC. There are a couple of other properties also, but I really just wanted to talk about three. Two of them are owned by Krupnik Family Trust. They are not adjoining properties. Mark Properties owns one in between the two. And I understand that the process that was undertaken was pretty much a broad brush stroke, and that Mr. Gillen's way he explained it previously is that he really wasn't given the task of going to every property or really looking seriously at the individual characteristics of each property. And so there were a lot of objections, and I believe what was decided was that people would be given a chance to bring those issues on their own, to hire professionals, engineers, whatever was needed, and bring those characteristics to the attention of the engineering company that was hired by the township to do this. And so my client did that, hired an engineering firm who created plans that showed really, even bending over backward, the highest and best possible use of the property. And in this particular instance, really, each property should be taken separately. But he went so far as to take the three and put them together and say, if you took all three together, and he made a developable plan that would, was subject to the Howell regulations and ordinances, and he came up with 66,000 square feet. And yet, Mr. Gillen's firm has it at 143,000. That's a huge difference. One of the issues, I mean, Mr. Gillen has said that, well, we'll take wetlands into consideration and other constraints. I mean, there are particular characteristics of properties that don't involve wetlands that make it impossible to develop land. In particular, in this case, there is it's about an acre, maybe a little less, it's kind of a cutout that goes to the side and behind and comes to a point. It is really a useless piece of land. Mr. Gillen has said that, well, he could, the client could, the property owner could subdivide that useless piece of land and sell it to somebody else. Now, I think you have to have a certain amount of common sense with this, and that, to me, defies common sense. I think it's ridiculous, and my client thinks it's ridiculous. And we're not talking about, we're talking about over $200,000 in assessment. It's a lot of money to my client, and that's not the only. I mean, and even so, even if you don't, even if we accepted that acre, that useless piece of land, could be somehow used, the calculations really go even. They're not even close. I mean, so that would maybe add it to maybe 100,000 or a little more. It still doesn't get to 143,000. I think that the engineer did everything he could to present the characteristics of the property, bent over backwards, even to give more, even really more than there is there. I hate to say it, but it really leaves us no choice. I mean, we'd hate to have to go to court over this. Don't want to, and I hope that we can work it out. But I think it's a very arbitrary decision on the part of the township through the engineering company, and I would hope that it would be reconsidered. I have one other question, and that is there are, on top of the assessment, the general assessment for each property, and I just want to add that the statute is very clear that the property can be assessed to pay for the sewers, but only to the point where they benefit that property. So I think that that has to.
Thank you for that.
So I mean, I'm not disputing that we can be assessed, but there's a point. You can only go so far to the benefit that the property's getting. So the question I had was, there on top of the assessment, there is a connection fee for each property, which is very substantial, and my question is that connection fee being assessed whether or not is actually being hooked up, or is it only going to be a charge when there is a hookup?
Mr. Filiacci.
That's a potential connection fee based on the potential development that the engineers have done. Their actual connection fee will be based on what they actually connect, what is in existence at the time that they connected the sewer.
Okay, so the answer is that it's not being assessed at this time?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I believe when we first did it, the first connection fee was we waived because we had homeowners that lived there, right?
One unit.
So one unit was waived for everybody, because we didn't want the homeowner who would already lived there.
So at the time of connection, that's when it will be assessed?
Yes.
Mr. Filiacci just said?
Thank you.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
You too. Always a pleasure.
Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, come on up, sir. I'm sorry. Sorry, into the mic. Please state your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Mr. Cohen, and my address is 5200 15th Avenue, Brooklyn, New York.
Jerry's going to scream at me pretty soon that he can't hear you. So get a little closer to the mic, please, sir.
Mr. Cohen, 5200 15th Avenue, Brooklyn, New York.
Hello, sir.
Hi. Honorable, can I make a statement?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want, just don't curse me.
Okay. Honorable Mayor and council members, my name is Mr. Cohen. I'm the owner of 6615 Highway 9, block number 25, lot 15. I'm here regarding the proposed sewer assessment, excuse me, on my property. The proposed assessment is in the range of $70,000. I understand that the township has made its investment and that the investment must be paid. I just want to make sure that my portion of the assessment is fair. I own 3 acres, of which 1.5 acres is not buildable because it's wetlands, and also because of wetlands buffers. I just want to make sure that this was taken in consideration when the assessment for my property was arrived at. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for coming down. Anybody else? Okay. You need to hear your public citizens?
Yes, Mayor. I believe, do you have the list or no?
I have nothing.
Okay.
I think it's still on the end, isn't it?
I have nothing. I'm not holding. Mr. Gillen? Everyone, please. This time I'd like to open the meeting to the public. Vinnie Tantillo. Good evening, Mr. Tantillo.
Good evening, Council. Vinnie Tantillo, Casino Drive. Want me to spell it? I'm up here for 3 reasons tonight. One is, as chairman of the planning board, I had to bring something up. I'm sure Rob and Bill can verify this. We had many cases where signs are being put up when we approve stuff, and they're lighted signs. And one in particular was Walgreens, which Rob should remember. And the sign was going on every 5 seconds.
Councilman Castro.
Mr. DeCastro. And anyhow, I addressed the issue. I went to the store, and we had to change to 30 seconds because it was considered a flashing sign. Well, I got 10 phone calls within the last week, and it's 2 of the people were at that meeting that we had, and they were complaining about, is the township exempt from these rules? I says, absolutely not. We do the same thing with the township as we do with anybody else. And they mentioned Soldiers Memorial Park. We have a sign out there, Helene. We got to do something.
I can answer the question, though.
2 seconds they're on.
Mr. Froco had said that he changed the timing on that sign, so I will recheck it tomorrow. But originally, you are correct that that sign time was too quick. However, he had adjusted the timing, but I will confirm that with him tomorrow.
All right, as of yesterday, it was still 2
Okay.
seconds. Okay.
I will let him know that. But I know he was very conscious of that and had actually gone out there and changed the timing, but I will confirm that tomorrow.
In all fairness, even a speed
I
reader
agree.
couldn't read it.
No, I agree. We were conscious of that and had it changed. Actually, I believe that it was Councilwoman Smith that actually mentioned that to me a while back, and I believe the deputy mayor had also.
I still hear from people.
Right, and I know we had spoke about that, and at that time, Mr. Froco, our recreation director, had changed the time, but I'll confirm. I mean, I believe that that's
I went
correct.
back and looked at it. I'll look at it again, but it definitely looks different.
Right. I will check with him tomorrow. I'll let you know.
Okay, well, I promised the people I would bring
no,
it up.
absolutely.
Sure,
I
it needs to
had
comply, absolutely.
I'm sorry?
It needs to comply, no doubt, sure.
You fulfilled your promise, Mr. Tantillo. I'll turn your phone off.
The second thing I want to bring up tonight was code enforcement, not picking on anybody in particular. Yes, I am, but I won't mention no names. Twin Pond Farms on Route 9. They have two pieces of property. One is a deli, and the other one is Twin Ponds Farm, where they sell fruits and vegetables and plants and stuff. Well, he seems to be getting harassed again from code enforcement because he wants to pile his pumpkins in the back of the property next to this solid wood fence he's got. And they told him he can't do it, it's a third use. Now, I thought we were all for promoting farming in this town. And I remember back in 93 or 94, we done a thing for farmers, and we had the right to farm, and the right to farm in any zone, whether it be commercial or residential or whatever. And here's a man, I mean, we only have like 3 real farms in this town, and we're trying to promote green and farming, and here's a guy who's paying $30-something thousand a year for property tax. And he's getting hammered every time he turns around. And I just want to know if something could be done. I mean, this is ridiculous. The name of the place is Twin Pond Farm. If nobody understands what that word means, farm is growing things and selling them. And, I mean, why is this man getting picked on?
Well, first off, I want to say that I have not heard from this gentleman even once.
I'm sorry?
I have not had one complaint from this gentleman to my office.
He won't complain.
He won't.
Well,
This man got 2 tickets
Well-
for his trucks on his own property because the name was on the trucks. You have a commercial truck, your name has to be on the truck. Does that mean ShopRite can't park their trucks in the ShopRite parking lot? Does that mean Acme can't park their tractor trailers in their parking lots? The man doesn't leave it there for a sign, and he went and paid them just not to have any problems. Here he is getting hammered again.
Well, first off, we would need a complaint from him, and with all due respect, you can't complain for him. If he feels that he's being harassed, then we would certainly address it. But I don't think this is a discussion that we have here. If someone, any resident or any business, feels that they're having a problem, they need to contact my office.
Okay, I'm going to have to break his arm
because I
to do
will
this.
tell you this, that we absolutely would not tolerate retaliation for someone who is complaining to our office. My office addresses every problem that comes through, and we try to help whether it's a resident or a business, and I certainly would not allow retaliation from any of our departments, and I'm going to tell you that I don't believe that any of our departments would do such a thing. So
I don't think it's retaliation. I think it's a misunderstanding of the right to farm ordinance.
Exactly.
Well,
I really do. I've seen it.
We need to
a couple of
clarify
times.
it. We need to clarify it, but that, you know, I really don't know the particulars because I haven't heard the gentleman say anything. So I mean, I'm at a loss here to know exactly what's happening. This isn't happening on his farm; it's happening at his business, correct? No, I mean, I'm not.
It is his. They do technically, yes, because he has greenhouses on that property. He grows. It's technically a farm. But he doesn't grow the
it's not.
pumpkins there.
Right. Okay. So I mean, I'm sure that there's reasons on both sides, and I think until we get the facts will lead us to the truth, and we'll see at that point.
Let's figure this out.
You know,
Well, I would need the business owner.
You want me to have him call you at least?
Yes.
Okay, I'll have him do that.
Okay, thank you.
If
We'll
you can
need
get
more
him to.
information, Mr. Dentil, than what you're willing to give us. Okay?
The third thing is just another pain in my side. The criminal justice building. Helene, could you please order those letters for Harvey's name to be bigger like the rest of them? I'll pay for them. I don't even want the town to pay for them. Order them. I'll pay for them. The man was just 80 years old a week ago. I was there. We had a great time. And I was asked about that again.
I'll get you the bill. I'll let you know how much it is.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dentil.
Check on that bronze, too,
Barbara
Helene,
Dixon.
while you're about it.
Be ready, Jerry.
Behave. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Barbara Dixell, The Villages, Freehold, Howell Township, Monmouth County. First, I want to thank you, Mayor, and thank the Council and the administration for having a workshop regular meeting tonight. Jerry and I wish all of you and all of Howell a wonderful, blessed holiday for the coming holy days of Easter and Passover. I went and pulled some old minutes. Council meeting of April 6, 2010. The state cut aid to Howell by $1.8 million. Howell unions and employees to take every other Friday off without pay from April 16th through November 2010. Mayor Walsh said the governing body has made a decision not to pursue the purchase of the Global building for the new town hall. We cannot look at laying off police officers and pursuing the purchase of the Global building. When Mayor Robert Walsh ran for mayor with Angela Dalton, who ran for council, they made a campaign promise that no new bonding would take place without a public referendum. Please put the Global building on for referendum for the citizens of Howell Township to voice their feelings before you buy this building, if you're going to buy it. If the Global building is off the market in 2010 because Howell employees had to work with no pay for many weeks due to cut in state aid, and there was talk of laying off police officers, what changed and why is the Global building on full steam ahead now to buy the Global? Anybody? Okay.
Mrs. Dixon, I'd like to say something here.
Go ahead.
I have the verbatim minutes at home of February of 2010. If you sit in that seat
No, I just have
and
April
telling me
6th.
it's a great thing to buy the Global building, buy it. It'd be one of the jewels of Howell Township. A February meeting of 2010.
Or maybe I
you
have
sit
that.
in
I have
seat.
that also.
Okay.
I have it. I have it. I changed my
what
mind.
is it?
People are allowed to change their minds. But,
Oh,
well,
hold on, whoa. I need to hear that again.
people are allowed to have a change of mind, sir,
Thank you.
when things are researched.
Thank
Now,
you.
When Mr. Neville gave his presentation on saving the building, on saving this building and buying the Global, an air conditioning person who worked at the Global said the roof and the heating system had to be replaced, and there was mold in the garage, and there is fiberglass in the air conditioning system. It was mentioned that there were workers, well, anyway, and there's a new garage door on the building. If we have not bought this building yet, who is doing the work and who's paying for it? And why is Birdsall evaluating the Global building, and who's paying for it if there's no Howell ordinance in place to authorize all of this plus the funding available?
Which part of that do you want to get taken first?
However you wish to do it.
All right, well, you asked who was doing the work, but then you answered your own question. It's obviously Birdsall. It was done because we asked the administration to do it. It was something that was deemed to be a necessary step in the process based on the options that came from the Neville report.
Okay.
It's being made public as early as tomorrow morning so
Good.
that you can see it and review it. And I suspect that the majority of the questions you just asked will be in that report. So
Okay.
I suspect that your questions may be a bit premature. There were people that were in the audience the last time we had this lengthy conversation that brought up various issues. And I would think that you would expect your elected representatives to go and investigate the items that were brought up. And that's exactly what was done. That's why it was done. And that's what you're going to see tomorrow morning if you go on the internet.
Can I ask, there was a post on the Howell web, on the Howell.com, that the Global building is scheduled for the next tax lien sale. Would this be any reason why we're rushing to buy
I
this
can
building?
answer that, Deputy Mayor.
Feel free, Mr.
The
Schleifer.
taxes are all up to date.
Thank you. Okay.
And I would
and
ask
I'll
that if
answer
you need
that further,
official
that-
information, you can contact my office for official information.
Right.
Okay, I just, thank you very much. I just asked that before we go and buy it, we put it out for public referendum for the citizens of Howell to voice their opinion. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Any more comments from the public? That's it on the list. Anyone?
So, Deputy Mayor, we're going to close public portion?
Yes.
That's not as the ordinances that are on later, correct?
That's correct. This is for consent agenda items and general discussions.
Please make
Just-
that clear
just
to
for
the
the-
public.
just for
that
the
con-
public,
That we
it's
will
the-
be voting tonight on the
It's the
consent agenda.
7A, it's the 7A resolutions, and then it would be including 7B 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, and the add-ons.
Now, we got that add-on 7A 30, 31, 32, and 7B1.
7B1 is removed.
7B1's removed.
That's it.
Where we at, Debbie?
You are
Resolutions.
going right down to consent agenda item vote.
Okay, consent agenda items. Anybody for the governing body? 7A1 through things we're going to be taking action on.
If no one has any questions or concerns, I'll make a motion that we add on 30, 31, 32, and approve 7A1 through 7A32.
What about 33? Isn't it 33 also?
Yes.
Okay, she said
31,
30,
32, 33.
Yeah, just add 33 to that resolution.
What's 33?
What's 33? I don't have a
Oh,
33.
you know what? No, not 33. We're looking at the same thing. It says Res R 133.
Okay.
It's 30.
Sorry, Council.
It is 32?
It's
All right, we're
30,
good. So we have a
31.
motion.
So that
Do we-
stands.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please, Ms. Wallman?
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. Okay.
7Bs. Seven B1 is removed, right?
7B1's removed. 7B2. 7B2 and 3. Have a motion to approve 7B2 and 3?
So move.
Second.
Give me a roll call.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. 7C1, tax liens. Ms. Kingman, why is this here?
Mayor, I think in your packets, there was a request from our resident, Mike Hammer, for the township to assign to him property tax liens for Block 53, lots 1901 and 1902. Whether we do that by private or public sale is really the issue, and if you want to assign it. The recommendation from the tax collector is assign it and do it by private sale. It's much easier, cleaner, and the township doesn't have any real interest in these tax liens. We get paid, and then Mr. Hammer can foreclose within the 2 years. But I just couldn't put it on for resolution until we notify the property owner, so we just have to give them notice.
Okay, everybody?
That's
And
fine.
just for the record, the calculated amount through May 10th is $4,940.87 that Mr. Hammer would pay for the assignment. And if that's the case, I'll put that on the resolution authorizing the assignment, along with the assignment itself, on for the May 10th meeting.
Okay. 7C2, I have read documentation on that. It's the local landlord raise the rent because the sewer increases.
Makes sense.
Correct. I already drafted the ordinance, had Mr. Howley review it. If you want, I don't know if we could introduce it tonight, but I have a draft of it. Otherwise, we could just introduce it May 10th and adopt the 24th. He's going to let his board know as well.
I think that would be cleaner.
I think so,
I
too.
suggested that he somehow wanted it on earlier, but I think at this point it's fine.
I just, Mr. Mayor, if I could, Mr. Howell reached out to me. He said he'd be more than happy to appear. I know he's reached
Yeah,
out
he didn't have to.
Mr. Kingdon, Miss Kingdon. Sorry about that. And, certainly gave me some more information about it, so I just wanted to thank him for his work on the rent control board.
And it does save us some money,
Yes,
and it
it
saves
does.
them time. Obviously, this issue doesn't have to go before the board. It allows them to do it.
So it's an excellent.
Any other discussion?
No,
That's good.
it's fine.
Public hearing on ordinances. 8A1. Amend Chapter 139 fee ordinance. This ordinance amends Chapter 139-69C1, entitled Recreation Fees by decreasing the amount of fees for the summer recreation program.
Which one are we doing?
8A1. Right?
I'm sorry.
I thought we were taking that. That's still on? 8A1?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
8A1.
Yeah, that's just to reduce the recreation fees.
Okay.
And that's because the camp got reduced today?
Yes,
Correct.
it's Fridays. They won't have it on Friday.
Ordinance number 0-11-6, reducing the first reading on 3/15/11 and published according to law. It's now being taken up for further consideration in public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance, the Asbury Park Press Session with 3/18/11 is submitted as noted. A copy of the ordinance was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. The copies are available to the general public upon request. Ms. Swolman, please read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance amending Chapter 139 entitled Fees, Charges, and Costs of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell.
Okay. This time I'd like to open the meeting to the public. Everybody from the public like to speak about this. Going once, going twice. I'd like to close the public portion of the meeting. Would anybody from the council like to speak about this?
No, sir, but I would like to make a motion. That ordinance number, that was good. A motion ordinance number 011-6 be finally passed and adopted. That notice of its passage and adoption be published in the April 8, 2011 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
I'll second. There's just so much to do tonight, I could get rolling.
Can I have a roll call, please, Ms. Wallman?
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. 8A2. Let me find it back here. Amend land use chapter 188 solar ordinance. This ordinance amends the land use regulation to permit solar farms in the Township of Howell located in the SED zone. Ordinance number 0-11-7 introduced and passed on first reading on 3/15/11 and published according to law is now being taken up for further consideration of public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance, Asbury Park Press issue of 3/18/11 is submitted as noted. A copy of the ordinance was posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building. The copies are available to the general public upon request. Ms. Rowley, please read the title of the ordinance.
Ordinance amending the land use regulations of the Township of Howell, specifically Chapter 188-4 and Chapter 188-79 and Schedule 1 entitled Permitted Uses and Schedule 2 Bulk and Dimensional Requirements for Non-Residential Zones and Schedule 4 Bulk and Dimensional Requirements for Solar Energy Generation Facilities of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell.
This time I'd like to open the meeting to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak about this ordinance? Come on up. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Michael Pane. I'm from the law firm of Giordano, Halloran, and Ciesla. I'm here tonight representing two clients. Solar Wind Energy Company, who is the contract purchaser of about 100 acres of land in the SED zone, and FE Solar Energy Corporation, contract purchaser of 79 acres in the ARE 6 zone, which and that parcel is adjacent to the SED zone.
Where are they, sir, just my own personal knowledge?
I'm sorry?
You know where they are, just my own personal knowledge?
The address?
Yes. I'll talk about each of them separately. I have with me Mr. Rick Reagan from Solar Wind, who is going to make a statement and address some of the concerns with the ordinance.
Where they were from my own personal
It's,
knowledge.
Sure, he's going to tell you.
Randolph Road, right
Oh.
across from Arnold Steel,
Oh, okay.
right next to the Larrabee Station.
No problem.
And the other site, I think, is 829 Lakewood Farmingdale Road.
Okay.
And I have a map of that one, which I'll show you in a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay, with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Rick Reagan, who has a statement.
Good evening.
Name and address, please, for the record.
Yes, Richard Reagan, R-A-G-A-N, 108 Muirfield Court, Moorestown, New Jersey. I'd just like to identify myself as, I am a licensed...
Excuse me,
You have
sir.
to speak into
You
the
can't-
mic.
Really close.
Jerry's going to yell soon, but Costigan's already standing up.
It's not your fault, it's the microphone, so.
Thank you.
We,
Can you hear me now?
yes. Thank you very
Good.
much.
I am a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey, currently the vice chair of the State Board of Professional Planners. I am also a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I, 4 years ago, started this company, Solar Wind Energy, with the purpose of helping our environment and trying to make a buck along the way, not to be totally
Thank you for being honest.
eleemosynary, but true. So we have developed 1.7 megawatts on top of a cold storage facility for a client of ours. I put solar on my house 2 years ago before it was fashionable, 2.5 years ago, and we just finished another 80 kW on top of a roof for the University of Pennsylvania Medical Facility in Woodbury Heights. So our goal here is to try and put solar wherever it seems to be reasonable. Now, this particular zone is SED. It's zoned for utilities. It's zoned for solar. We contract with Arnold Steel, the owners of Arnold Steel, to purchase this property. It's directly adjacent to the Larrabee Station, and as you may know, it's very important that you have your source of your energy close to your transmission station. So this couldn't be much closer. It's right next door. In order to seek approval to transmit energy from your location into the grid, you must seek an approval from the company that controls the grid, called PJM. PJM regulates the amount of energy that's permitted to go into the grid at the various spots. PJM, so back in, I guess, November, we called the office here, talked to Chris Jackson, talked to the planning board attorney, said we were looking to do solar on this farm, or on this parcel. It's not a farm. And that's one of my complaints about the ordinance. It labels all of this land as if it were a farm, when in fact SED is an industrial use. So in any case, we did check with people, but from a procedural standpoint, it's beneficial to go to PJM first, because if they can't accept your electricity, why bother going through a whole site plan approval? All right, so we've gone to PJM.
So you want to make money, and you want to use a little common sense.
I want to try, absolutely. I'm taking after some people I've seen here tonight. So in any case, PJM says, yes, we can take your proposal. We're proposing to develop about 70 acres of solar panels on a total of a 100-acre site. So this is directly across the street from Arnold Steel, as I said, and then we get this ordinance. So we just received the ordinance last week. We started looking at it, and we said, this doesn't seem to make sense, that doesn't seem to make sense, and I really don't understand some of the provisions, so I really wanted to ask first and make comment later. The first ask is why we would be limited to 1 acre of land disturbance on a parcel for a solar farm.
Ms. Kingham.
I think I have Fred Heyer here, but I don't think it's limited to 1 acre. If you're looking at the restrictions, the minimum acre, you mean for
disturbance and for section, I don't need to go through the section, but the use of any geotextile fabric covering by a layer of gravel is permitted as a base for an installation of a solar energy generation facility, provided that the system height is no greater than 2 feet and the occupied area does not exceed 1 acre. That means I can only use 1 acre of geotextile if I want to. Ask number 2, why?
Okay, hold on.
I'm sorry.
Hold
I have a
on.
lot of questions, sorry.
That's okay. Any answer to that?
Mr. Heyer.
I would like an answer to that, Mr. Heyer. Come on up and sit down, and I think you're comfortable. Tell everybody who you are. Say hello.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Fred Heyer. I am the planning consultant to the Howell Township governing body.
Welcome, Mr. Heyer. Very familiar with your firm and happy to be on this side of the mic from you.
Which particular section are you referring to now?
The one I just quoted.
Is it number
was
7?
C4.
C4.
But number 7's a good one, too.
That's.
I'll stay with C4, excuse me.
I'd like an answer to that first.
It's on page 6.
C3AE3.
C3A?
Go down to C.
Yeah, 3A.
3. Then go to E, and then number 3.
Occupiers not exceed 1 acre.
You go down to 4s.
I see
E4.
it.
Is it 4?
E4, the bottom of 4, 1 acre?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I would assume that if we're talking about a large solar farm, that 1 acre standard would apply to each section or each module of a solar array with intervening open space in between. But it could be read the way he is reading it as well.
Okay.
Well, I read 1 acre. Okay. if-
My point is not clear, and it gives me great heartache.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard, yeah. Let me put that one down. The guy wants to make a buck, use common sense, and get great
and he has
heartache.
heartache.
Yeah.
At least I'm trying to make myself clear.
You're definitely doing that.
It's okay.
May I go on?
Sure.
Or he's got an interpretation which doesn't work for the way it's written.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
But go ahead. What else do you need, sir?
Yes, sir. I need, excuse me, I started off a little further away, but I might jump around a little bit if you'll forgive me. C2. C1 says that the farm should be located in a manner to minimize views of the facility, the solar farms are talking about, minimize the view of facility from public roadways. C2 says, in the event that the existing visual barriers do not fully obstruct the view of the solar energy generation facility, the installation of vegetating screening is required in certain circumstances as set forth in Schedule 4. Okay. Does that mean if the 100-foot barrier of trees that I'm going to leave on that site is sufficient, I do not have to provide any further screening, number one? And number two, in the schedule in the back, under Section 4, the Schedule 4 book, the very last page, it says, under the SED zone, there's screening required, is not required in every one of those instances. So I believe it's not clear, I'm assuming no screening is required. And therefore, comments to screening would be contrary to the schedule.
That wasn't our intention. We wanted screening.
Yeah.
Okay, just, you know how you said before you use common sense? Use common sense on this one. We want it screened.
We're okay with that. I just don't.
He wants to clarify.
Yeah, and
I
That's
want
a
to
good
clarify.
idea for everybody.
Okay.
Now, okay, so we screen it. Now my question is, why would I have to limit the height of my solar panels to 2 feet? That's another requirement of this ordinance, when in fact, what you do on a solar field is you try and set your solar panels up 18 inches to 2 feet above at the low point and rise them up to 8 or 9 or 10 feet here so they can collect the energy. And so you can mow, weed whack, whatever you want to do under there and provide a chance for the grass to grow up to about 18 inches. And if you use the new grass that Rutgers says is the magic grass under solar fields, it will only grow to 18 inches. So why would I ever want to put my solar panels 2 feet off the ground and put them on the ground so I constantly have a maintenance problem? And the ordinance is telling me that if I don't do that, I have to provide a 200-foot setback or a 350-foot setback, depending on the height of my panels. That makes no sense.
Can I just ask a question? Is there any situation where the solar panel could be consistent with this ordinance? Is there a way that you could have a farm, I know you don't like the word, that could be consistent with this, the way it's written?
Not the way it's written.
So it's impossible? You're saying it's impossible?
It will be, depending on how one interprets it, it's impossible to build under this ordinance without clarification. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Well, I'm just saying for purposes of that, and I'm sure we'll have our expert talk about this, but I just wanted to know, and maybe you can address that.
Okay, maybe I could explain. This ordinance was crafted in such a way that it was done to address the state's position that solar farms and other forms of renewable energy were inherently beneficial uses. Not having any ordinance in place gives elevated status to an application that would come in on any site without virtue of any zoning consideration at all. The standards in this ordinance are generally the most restrictive standards that come from various state sources. At this point in time, the state has amended legislation to allow, for example, solar farms on industrial sites of at least 20 acres. Those bulk standards that you see with those large setbacks are recommendations from the state SADC and agriculture. They are very difficult standards to meet. They do pose practical constraints. The intent at this time was to have an ordinance in place that was candidly a tough ordinance and to at least have some provisions for the use. We did not look at citing one of these facilities on any particular piece of property. Frankly, the Arnold Avenue site was something I wouldn't have even thought of in terms of placing a solar facility there, but with the substation and everything else, it's probably an ideal site. Again, this was intended to be a first draft of an ordinance and that it would require refinement later, and it was an attempt to really get the foot in the door to have something on the books relative to solar. We did not test this practically against any particular properties. We did not, and again, these are generally the standards that the state has in some form or another enacted, and when you cobble them together, you know, you design a horse by committee, it looks like some other kind of animal. And that may be why there's a little bit of internal inconsistency because, you know, the standard for the SED zone versus the ag standards where they do require very large buffers.
But this is...
Okay.
We would be happy to work with your professionals to craft an ordinance that would be more realistic. And there are a number of places here where ag and horticulture are mentioned. This is not a solar ordinance for a farm field. This is specifically for an SED. So all these references to agriculture and returning the land to agriculture are totally not relevant.
It's, I think we need a little more work done here. What do you think?
I think we need to include such things and have separate standards for a not farm area. What do you think, Mr. Heyer?
Let's start. Let us talk about this for a second.
Yeah, you know, I'm always a little leery when we introduce something and then we get a prospective user of this ordinance to suggest that it be crafted. However, I think I am hearing enough here to say that, and I guess maybe even by your own admission, that we might be a little outside the box here. So I think we definitely need to retool what we're trying to do here.
We want to be tough, we want to protect the citizens of Howell Township, but at the same
Absolutely.
time,
Right.
we want to be fair.
But
Absolutely.
I
Okay.
don't believe this applies to this particular site, but I think it applies to what we were thinking of when it applies to
I'm not against the
virgin
intent.
land.
Right,
So
but-
what
but-
would the problem be if we adopted the ordinance and then developed an amendment that would apply to immediately?
Because then I couldn't apply for an application.
Yeah.
Are you ready to apply for an application?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, what difference would it make if
I'd have to
well,
ask for variances for all these sections.
No, that's not what I meant.
Oh,
I mean,
sorry.
I meant that we did it anyway. That this,
All right.
I mean, this takes care of part of our concern.
Councilman?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, we don't have an ordinance in place. You'd have to go to the zoning board anyway.
No, actually, I don't. According to your planning board's interpretation, the utilities are permitted use within this site.
You already went for an interpretation.
No, I called your solicitor for your planning board and discussed whether or not I would have to go to the zoning board, and he gave me an informal opinion that utilities are permitted use within the SED zone.
So you can do just about whatever you feel like, that is what you're saying to me right now.
No, I'm not suggesting, I'm not even proposing to do that. Remember my original? I had proposed buffers of 100 feet off of Randolph Road
Now
before.
I'm getting a heartache, just so you know. Your last line, now I'm getting a heartache,
No heartache necessary.
okay?
We're out to do a good job.
Councilman DeCastro?
The purpose of why we did this was because of the rule of a decision. But now I'm a little about the SED zone, that it's a permitted use. So now I'm not totally clear.
I'm not even going to speak to that because I don't even know who you spoke to, or it was an informal opinion, or whatever the case might be. I mean,
Well, I think that at this point, if the consensus at least, I know I'm kind of in the same boat, that hearing this, I appreciate we've been trying to get this done. We're trying to get it done right. I know a lot of work went into this. And I just want to see it done correctly. I don't want to have to go back and make changes. I know there's timeliness issues, but if we could get some more input, and my recommendation would be get more input. I'm not comfortable today going forward with this.
Well, I do not like leaving the town totally unprotected at all.
I agree.
I have a very, I have a tough thing with that, leaving this town unprotected at all.
Well,
I would like to know from you, Ms. King, what we can do now to protect the town. At the same time, I hear you. I mean, this is not being done because of you or because of, a solar farm going up.
I know.
Okay, but we've had conversations in the past, and we have reservations, okay? And we want to keep the citizens of Howell Township protected as we can. And there is nothing on the books. And that does give a little bit of free rein. Now, we have a lot of latitude up here to do things after the fact. We can't alter what we do, correct, Ms. Kingdom?
yes.
Could we, I don't know, if I were to suggest amendments to this ordinance, they would probably be considered substantial by your solicitor.
Oh, I'm sure they'll be substantial. Now you're glad you started to give me a heartache, aren't you?
I'm just trying, I will agree not to make an application, this is me, for 6 weeks or 8 weeks until we can get an ordinance that is amenable.
Okay.
I'm trying to work with, I'm not.
And with all due respect, I don't think it's free reign. I mean, it would be subject to the same bulk standards that you have in place now for the SED zone.
I need to digest this. We need to take a break for a minute.
Okay.
All right. I'd like to Need a little help here. Ms. Kingman, what would you like to say to us?
If I may, I'd like to clarify
Thank
something
you.
so that everybody understands, and stop me, everybody stop me if you're not in agreement.
No problem.
I just wanted to, just so you know where it's coming from. I don't know how familiar you are with our whole township, but a big chunk of what's zoned SED are already farms. And that's what we,
And that's the way the ordinance was written.
Right.
This is an anomaly.
Okay.
so yeah, we never dreamed that that kind of small section of SED, which really differs from the other SED sections, would be necessary. So you kind of caught us off guard. Not that we don't understand the dilemma, but now we need to go forward.
Okay, how do we do that?
Okay. I'll make a little statement here, okay? I think you're a man of your word,
Yeah.
okay? Can we work on this? Can we adjust this? I do think it needs more work.
Just for the record, you should all know that you can't vote on this tonight. You'd have to table your vote till May 10th.
Okay.
Because the planning board hasn't had the chance to review it, because their meeting schedule didn't coincide with our meeting schedule, and what have you.
Okay, so we can't vote on it till May 10th. But if there's changes that need to be made, they can't be made.
If we're not going to vote on it till May 10th, and we're already out of the box, if I'm going to, any changes, and I have to look at the planning board schedule because this is what happened the first time, that are going to be made, should be made now, introduced on May 10th, and adopted on May 24th. I have to find out, though, I don't know if somebody has a planning board.
Thursday.
Is it?
Thursday.
Yeah, but is there one in between May 10th and May 24th?
Oh, May 24th.
No. Because it's the first Thursday of the month.
I actually have seen the planning board agenda. I know this is on, but I think it's just in reference to a letter, not as for consideration of the ordinance.
No, it's for consistency.
For consistency? So it is on the agenda for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Would it be possible that we work with your staff to craft an ordinance that would be available for advertisement prior to the May 10th meeting?
Here's the other alternative is to adopt this ordinance, vote on it May 10th, and then have another one for introduction on May 10th.
That's what I suggested before. That's what I was referring to. Because it's a different set of standards. It's a different description.
Because we can't.
I'm just.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying.
This way, it's kind of a happy medium. We're protected. May 10th, we introduce another ordinance, which is probably not far behind from what we were going to do anyway. It's just a lot earlier than we
Sped up the
envisioned.
process.
Good.
Okay. Listen, we want to be fair, too. We're not anti-business here in Howell Township.
But I
We
hesitate.
just want our residents protected.
I hesitate to do nothing because this property is an anomaly, and there are other areas that we should be concerned about. Any reference, there's some clerical errors where there shouldn't be reference to a commercial farm that should have been taken out, that weren't taken out. That will be cleaned up for this version, but I have no problem meeting with Mr. Reagan and Fred Heyer and looking at what we have and what we need going forward, and have something for the governing body to introduce on May 10th.
Okay, I'm fine with that. You know, I'm perfectly fine with that.
That's the only choice.
Okay.
Which is within your
Michael?
6-week time frame.
As I started out to say earlier, I am here representing two clients, one of whom is not in the SED zone. So I do have a presentation on behalf of that client as well, which was meant to follow Mr. Reed.
I'm assuming this is for the ARE zone?
Yes, it is
So
adjacent.
this might be something we want to look at the same time.
Yes.
When we look at it at the same time,
There is a planning board on the 19th.
I don't think a
Yes, there was a planning board meeting on, according to the calendar, on May 19th.
Perfect.
Okay, so I don't think we need more presentations at this time. Everybody from the governing body, okay?
Well,
I don't know.
you're going to hear the other gentleman. He has a right to speak.
I think he
We'll-
wants to do his presentation on the ARA.
I mean, if you're intending to vote and adopt the ordinance tonight, then absolutely, I would like to make a presentation. If you're going to table it and reintroduce on the 10th, and take into consideration other comments before you reintroduce something on the 10th, then...
This is what's, I think, happening, is that May 10th is there going to be a vote on this ordinance, because we can't vote on it right now because it has to go to the planning board. So they're tabling the vote.
Would there be a first reading on a new ordinance?
Correct,
Also
May
on
10th.
May 10th.
Right. But you're more than welcome to do your
I'm sure that you're a man of
presentation.
your word also, sir.
I won't be here on May 10th. but-
Oh, no.
What-
As long
My daughter's
as
graduating
there's a
college.
meeting.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations.
But who,
But I
What-
am
is
a
that
man
the
of my word.
revised schedule
Absolutely.
you're looking at? 'Cause- oh, is Vinny still?
I mean, I
Oh, no,
certainly,
it's not.
Well, we have to,
We have to hear you.
we have to complete the public hearing.
Yeah, and I want
What I can do is, if you're not, since you're not voting tonight, what I'll do is sum up my testimony on behalf of the other client and not belabor the point. But basically, the site that we're talking about for FE Solar Energy Company, pardon me, FE Solar Energy Corporation, is a 79-acre site that is in the ARE 6 zone and is adjacent to the SED zone. It is located near a good connection point and is, in fact, probably much better suited for solar energy generation than many sites within the SED zone. Now, what FE Solar would like to propose is that you consider adopting it as a conditional use in the ARE 6 zone, which addresses your concerns that you're trying to regulate here within this ordinance, but also recognizes that there may be good sites that are much better suited and can encourage the development of solar energy production within Howell Township, rather than make it more difficult to do so. And one of the things you could do in that conditional use would be require a minimum of 50 acres. That eliminates many sites within the ARE 6 right there, and also take into account the impact of where these farms can connect to the grid. Because, of course, if they can't connect to the grid, they're never going to exist.
We are always interested in listening to something that's in the betterment of the citizens of Howell Township, just so you know. We're pretty open-minded, and
Mr. Costigan can't hear you now, sir.
just for the record, just so you know, there was a lot of discussion about what zone should be included in this ordinance. First draft, we had everything. Well, not residential, but, you know, it was revised, and I understand that ARE is, some locations would be a suitable site. There do have to be, there does have to be restrictions in place, you know, that address runoff and returning the site back to its natural state if you abandon it, or whatever the case might be. But I think that all of these are items that are not going to be anything difficult to work out. And I know that Fred and I discussed this as well, that there are going to be other zones that should be included at some point.
okay. Well, we'll have to tweak it as we go. But we do not want to leave the citizens of Howell Township totally exposed.
Could I just ask one thing? If, I know some, oftentimes when we're here, people come in like yourselves and provide us certainly helpful information. I know you're going to meet, but I think it would be helpful if there's something written outlining your concerns. Then we could receive that and take a look at in advance of a meeting.
Well, I'll have something for you guys.
I know you will.
I mean, certainly before.
Well, we have some work to do over the next 4 weeks. We'll be introducing another ordinance on May 10th, correct?
That's correct, and provided that our planning board comes back and says the ordinance that they are reading is consistent, then we'll be adopting.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else?
Yes, just to respond to Ms. Clark's comment, we have some testimony this evening, but if we're providing testimony about this ordinance, hopefully it's not the ordinance we're going to be having on first reading. So would you like testimony on this ordinance, or?
I think that what would be helpful for me, obviously you've summarized some of your points, but if you're talking about other points that maybe you haven't addressed in this, it might be helpful just to summarize it so we are not left next date, since we want to be thorough, we want to be specific, we want to make sure there's no issues, that we have it and we can go back and...
Excellent, thank you.
Okay?
Just send it to Ms. Flagel.
That would be fine.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anything else from you, sir?
Just let me clarify what you're doing here.
Yeah, I think I need this too.
Yeah, I just want to be absolutely clear about what you're doing here before I stop talking.
You can talk all night.
I can, and I really don't want to.
Thank you.
Some of you have heard me talk for an extended period of time, and those of you that will be here Thursday night will also hear me talk for an extended period of time, although hopefully not.
In the past.
But that being said, so you're making a motion to approve this ordinance.
We haven't done anything yet.
Well,
We're making a motion to table
To
the
table.
vote.
Tonight, yeah.
Closing the
Okay.
public comment, tabling it.
that being said, I have nothing more to say. Thank you very much for your time.
We would
Thank you.
appreciate any input being
Yes.
coordinated to Ms. Schlegel or Ms. King.
I'm pretty sure I'll probably be hearing from you.
Okay?
Yes, you will.
And we would like to,
And the reason we're tabling it is because the replacement ordinance has enough time to be reviewed by the planning board, so our exposure is limited because of the duration.
Correct.
Okay.
And you couldn't act tonight
Clear
anyway.
as mud.
That's
you're a man of
correct.
your word.
Absolutely.
All right.
Takes me a while to get there.
Mr. Panay, you look more like your dad every time I see you.
Thank you, I guess.
He was a wonderful man and a great lawyer and taught me a lot.
Well, thank you very much for saying so. I appreciate that.
Mr. Koskinen, did you speak by this ordinance, sir?
No, we're
No,
not
sir,
closing
I have
yet.
to close the public portion of the meeting. I just shooed those three gentlemen away. Wherever you'd like to sit, Mr. Koskinen, please speak into the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John Costigan, 214 Birdsall Road. I just want to elaborate on my understanding of what we're doing tonight.
Go ahead.
The one reason, I have to put my sunglasses on for the glare, not the weak eyes I've gotten. There's a rule of proposals that is open for comment until April 8th, and that's from the New Jersey State Agricultural Development Committee. So it has to do with the agricultural end. The proposed new rule is NJAC, that's New Jersey Administrative Code, 2:76-2A.12. Okay. I think everyone got a copy of it anyway. And it's talking about certain things that, as I said, it's still open for comment until the next couple of days. And then at some point, they will formulate what they want having to do with the agricultural part of what they would suggest or would require. So, and I can see that it talks about greater than 10 acres, pieces of property, things like that. So what my understanding was whatever we pass or don't pass tonight is just there to put something in place to protect the town, and that my understanding was that shortly thereafter there's going to be amendments to finish things off, but they wanted to wait until this was done so they didn't have amendment after amendment after amendment. So that's all I want to say. Mr. Reagan seems like a good man, and he said he would wait a little while, and I think we should make sure that we satisfy what he needs, because that's a good area.
The framework of what we want
Yeah,
done.
exactly. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Koskinen. Anybody else?
No, sir.
Let's close the public portion of the meeting. Anybody from the council?
No action needed.
Yes, we make a motion to table this to our May 10th meeting.
Table the vote.
Table the
only.
vote.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Ms. Woman.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. Okay. 883, amend Chapter 178 Housing Code. This ordinance amends Chapter 178 entitled Housing Code by limiting Section 178-10 and creating a new section entitled Rental Property to ensure compliance with the current policy and fee schedule. Ordinance number 0-11-8 introduced and passed the first reading on 3/15/11, published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication, this ordinance, Yasmin Park, Prince issue with 3/18/11 is submitted, as though the copy of the ordinance is posted on the bulletin board of municipal building, and copies are available to the general public upon request. Ms. Wellman, would you please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance amending Chapter 178 entitled Housing Code of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell.
This time I'd like to open the meeting to the public. Anyone from the public like to speak on this ordinance? Sir, you coming up to speak?
I don't think so.
I just want to make sure. Okay. At this time, I'd like to close the public portion of the meeting. Anybody for the governing body like to speak?
Yes, please. Since I know this just memorializes and puts into law things, changes that we wanted, but it also talks about fees, and I'd like to take this opportunity to get it straightened out before we vote on it. Some of us were under the impression that the raise in the fees to
Councilwoman, could you hold 1 second?
Sure.
Mr. Johnson, please go ask Ms. Kingdon that we need her in here. We're going to talk about fees that she's off.
That's a good idea. I didn't realize she'd even left.
No, no problem, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Luziano. Councilwoman, if you would, please.
Thank you. I'd just like to remind you back to a conversation that we had a meeting or two ago pertaining to fees for the registering of landlords annually, and I have always thought that the $100 each year was too excessive for filling out paperwork. But I was reminded by Mr. Gatto that we were under the impression that some of it would be in lieu of inspection fees, not technically, but there wouldn't be inspection fees, they would be included in that $100 fee. Right, Bill? Am I explaining it properly?
Well, that was on the residential.
It was for landlords, yeah, for rentals, because that came up. There was some confusion, and I was just wondering if it would be a good idea, so that we all knew exactly what we're doing from one to the other. I understand Mrs. Hoover is here. If we could just have her come up with everybody's permission and go through the process of how a rental property is treated now, so there's not a misconnect between what we think is happening and what is actually happening. Is that okay with everybody? You don't understand?
I don't understand.
Yeah, the conversation we had was not relative to rental.
Yes, it was.
I misunderstood.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was.
But it was relative to what I'm confusing two different conversations. We were talking about as a result of a resident who happens to own property. When he was asking what the explanation, okay, that's correct.
So,
but that's not necessarily the fees that are associated with this.
It's part of it,
First of all,
isn't it?
these fees, the fees for rentals and smoke detector and landlord registrations have already been set. This ordinance has nothing to do with that.
That's,
I mean,
but
just,
this
if we're talking about
does-
fees, I just want to make sure that we understand what we're doing here.
This-
What we did was, we did away with the residential certificate of occupancies.
Right.
We have something else in place.
Right.
But as a policy decision, we decided that we were going to keep rental inspections. We've
Right.
always had annual landlord registrations, totally and completely different than, it's always been there. It's state mandated. So now we have rental inspections.
These are the fees that are associated with the policy that we're setting relative to what type of inspections we want to have done on rental property.
Fees were already done. This is putting the rental provisions in our land use ordinance
Right.
because it was just never there. In fact, our land use ordinance, not land use, I'm sorry.
I
not
just thought
land
it would
use.
be an opportunity
I-
for us all to know what's going on. And if nobody else wants to bother, that's okay with me.
I don't think that, I mean, I'm only speaking from my perspective, that, I don't think we don't want to bother with it. I don't think the fees have anything to do with this ordinance, just so we're clear. I mean, even if Ms. Hoover comes up, I don't want her, I mean, we're not asking her about fees, right?
Well, we
Well-
have set the policy of what we want the housing inspector to do.
And now we're
Right.
codifying it.
Right.
Right.
So,
But are they then charged for each of these inspection fees? For each of these inspections?
When there's a change in tenancy, there's an inspection.
Right.
And there's a fee, because they have to file for an inspection for this was the basis for the
But
reason
not
behind the
annually.
policy. No.
So what's the
Every
$100
time
for?
there's a change in tenancy,
$100
there's an
is the
inspection
annual
fee of $100.
Yes, for doing what?
Every-
Filling out a piece of paper?
No, there's every time there's a change in tenant.
But
Okay, wait,
there's
wait,
not a
wait,
change
stop,
in
stop.
tenant annually.
If there's not a change in tenant, there's no inspection. There's a $100 annual landlord registration form that must be filled out by all landlords.
Right.
No inspection is associated with that.
Okay,
That's
that's
the
what I
paperwork
wanted to
that's
make
used.
clear. If there's no inspection or anything but filling out a piece of paper and leaving it in an office, I think it's outrageous that we charge $100.
I think that might be the case, and you
At the
might
time,
feel
I
that
know,
way.
we'll do it
but
in
I'm think-
September.
Nor November. I mean, that's fine. There's a couple other fees that we have on our agenda. Some will be on.
But I want everybody to understand that each time that these inspections take place, that the people are charged a fee. There's nothing, that $100, remember down the road, that $100 is nothing but for somebody handing that individual.
landlord-
Like a
wait, wait.
driver's license.
Call
You know
this.
how you have to renew your driver's license, you pay the money.
Every
and
4
A
years and it's
landlord
not $100.
registration
No, no,
fee.
no, I didn't mean that it is. I'm just explaining that it's similar to registering your
Most municipalities,
car.
all municipalities have an annual landlord registration fee. It ranges between $50 and $100, and some are $150. I'm just,
but that's not
This
what we're
is
doing
something
here.
for us to
No,
do in November.
that's
no,
not
we've
what we're
already
doing
done
here.
that.
Correct.
Okay.
So the only fees that are associated with this are the fees associated with the inspections that we set the
Correct.
policy for that we wanted to have enforced. Gotcha.
Anybody else from the governing body?
Nope.
You have somebody?
I'll get it. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that ordinance number 0-11-8 be finally passed and adopted, and this notice of its passage and adoption be published in the April 8, 2011 issue as Park Press by reference to its title only.
Second that.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes,
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes.
We have this like on somebody's calendar, right?
Yes.
Because I think I asked last meeting that sometimes we tend to forget this. and
The
now
fee?
we-
The
Huh?
fee issue?
Well-
Oh, every September, October,
Yes,
November.
Every September, we do it every,
There's some other things. we have to
Actually,
change.
Gotcha. All
Deputy
right.
Mayor, in answer to your question specifically, the clerk's office keeps, and Ms. Wallman in particular, keeps a running tab of outstanding issues that we go over
Thank you.
on a constant basis.
Great, thank you.
Okay. 884.
and fees will be one of them?
This is the ordinance amends Chapter 252 Sewer and Water by increasing the sewer use charges set forth therein. Ordinance number 0-11-9, introduced and passed on first reading on 3/15/11 and published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 3/18/11 is submitted as noted. A copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies are available to general public upon request. Ms. Wall, will you please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 252, Sewer and Water, Article 2, entitled Sewer Utility of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell.
At this time, I'd like to open the meeting to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak about this? Going once. Going twice. Close the public portion of the meeting. Anybody from the governing body?
Mayor, make a motion that ordinance number 0-11-9 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 4/8/2011 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a roll call, please, Ms. Woolman.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. 9A1, introduction of ordinances. This ordinance amends Chapter 188-62 by removing tattoo and body piercing establishments as prohibited use, and further amends Chapter 188-77 to specifically permit tattoo and body piercing establishments in the HD1 zone. I need a member of the council.
Mayor, motion to introduce ordinance number 011-10 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in the 4/8/11 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on May 10, 2011 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
Do I have a second?
Second, Mayor.
Ms. Wellman, please read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance amending Chapter 188-62 entitled Regulation of Sexually Oriented Businesses and Tattoo, Body Piercing, and Branding
That's it.
Establishments, and Chapter 188-77 entitled Highway Development 1, HD1, of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell.
Have a roll call, please, Ms. Wellman.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. 9A2, this ordinance exceeds municipal budget appropriation limits and establishes the cap bank. I need a member of the council.
Mr. Mayor, I make introduce ordinance number 0-11-11 on first reading by title and to order the same be published in the April 8th, 2011 issue as Park Press, together with its notice of introduction and passage on first reading by title. It will further be considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council be heard on May 10th, 2011, 7:30 prevailing time in the municipal building.
Mr. Filiaccia, before we go further with this, will you tell us exactly what this is in layman's terms?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this pertains to the appropriation cap as opposed to the levy cap, which is a limitation on the increase of our appropriations. We do not need the exception to the appropriation cap to the 3.5%. What we passed this ordinance for is to have the 2-year banking.
Oh.
So, rather than have the amount that we're under cap expire this year, it's available for the next 2 years. After that expires, we really haven't used it. And with the advent of levy cap in the last 3-4 years, we really have not had to use our cap bank on our appropriation cap. But for the passage of an ordinance, we get to at least bank it for 2 years.
That's good enough for me. Anybody else? Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Wall, will you please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
Can I have a roll call, please, Ms. Wallman?
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. Informational purposes, school elections are Wednesday, April 27th, from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Student Government Day, I'm sorry I will not be here, is Tuesday, May 10th, 2011. Deputy Mayor gets to play mayor for the night. Lucky him. Meeting dates, we have a workshop meeting Tuesday, May 10th, 2011, executive session at 6:30, regular session at 7:30. And then our regular meeting is Tuesday, May 24th, executive session 6:30, regular session 7:30. Anybody else from the governing body? Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
We already did.
Second.
It was on the consent agenda.
Well, we did on the consent agenda. Can I have a roll call, please, Ms. Woman?
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
You should
Yes.
point that out.
Mr. Gatto?
Yes.
Mayor Walsh?
Yes. Good night, God bless.